Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan, and we are at Manny's Irish Pub, one of my favorite places in all the world to be, with my buddies, my co host Tony Mejia, and making his debut at the pub is Jesse Schule, who I just did a 30-minute one on one with, and it was very, very good. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Euro soccer right now because there's been some developments just in the last 15 minutes that have really impacted some of these groups. And full disclosure, I am a rising knowledge person in soccer. I think that's what I'm calling myself. I never bet soccer until I met these guys, but it's all been downhill. I mean, I'm not downhill in a good way. It's been profitable. So tailing the soccer has been good thing for me to do. So everyone, welcome to the show. I guess fortunately we don't have to talk about Ben Simmons anymore, and that ugly situation is done and over with now for at least another 6 or 7 months. Well, maybe not that long, but at least 5. And thank goodness for that. But we do have a game tonight where I think, the two teams were not the ones that we thought were going to be in this Eastern Conference final with the Bucks and the Hawks, and especially the Hawks. A lot of people didn't think they would get out of the first round. And now here they are. We have two teams that won their Game 7s both on the road. And that is really, really unusual. And I'll just jumpstart things here right away with one of my favorite things. And this appears on the WagerTalk NBA tip-off show every day, which is another great show, very funny, entertaining. And these guys appear on that show too. They rotate them in, and it's awesome. So for this betting angle, which has to do with the game tonight, you're going to bet on the under with an NBA playoff team that closed out the previous series in 6 or 7 games with a road win. The team, which in this case we're talking about the Bucks, has at least one more day of rest than the new opponent, who is the Hawks. So basically we're talking about game 1 of the next round. 12-5 to the under, 71%. Last 10 NBA playoff seasons. Tells you to bet the under tonight in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And I also went on to say that with a 226 total, you guys know I love betting in-game because it's just Wall Street to me. So with in-game, 226, 50% pre-flop, then 25% at 233.5, the remaining 25% at 238.5, and that's all based on one of Tony Finn's favorite financial terms, implied volatility, which I borrowed and tweaked from my Wall Street days, and that measures how volatile a stock is going to be in any given day. And you use that for options pricing and evaluation. NBA scoring is the same thing. It has enough points being scored, and I use it, I would humbly say, successfully. So there are times that we won't get the second and third legs executed, but it's much like taking a position in a stock. And if you own Bitcoin, for example, and it hit 50,000, you thought, boy, I'm going to take profits. You don't have to take all the profits right away. You can scale it in. You can do 50% at 50,000, another 25% at 52, and so on and so forth. And that's the call for this game tonight. So I'll pass it on. We'll start with Tony Mejia and see if he has any thoughts on this game tonight. And if you do have a big play on it, you can pass. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've got action on this game, but we can talk around it. The key to me is that Trae Young has only played one game against the Bucks this season, so there's really not a lot of history in there. And then the most recent game that they played, I think it was April 25th, the Hawks beat the Bucks without Trae Young in the lineup. So these teams haven't seen each other in Milwaukee since January. So from that standpoint, you just finish off a tough series with the 76ers, and you have to turn right back around and play a Milwaukee team that's really good at home. I think undefeated in the playoffs this postseason. So I thought they were affected mostly, but most of anybody by the bubble not being able to play in that shiny new building that they have, because they really did play better at home. So I mean, I think the first few minutes will tell us what kind of series this is going to be.
Yeah, yeah. Do you agree with my under?
I mean, I think it's the under opened what 229, so the market certainly agrees with it. You know, it's a good angle.
I think tear some holes in this theory, Tony Finn. I think Milwaukee has to come out playing fast and get a lead, and then things will probably calm down in the second half, and that's why I'm leveraging my bet the way I outlined it. Is there anything you see that is a bad strategy for Milwaukee to want to come flying out of the gate and just score? Because Atlanta, if you look at Atlanta, the previous series and the first series, they slowed the other team down, and they slowed the Sixers down to such an unbelievably slow pace each and every game. There was two games where the Sixers scored the most in the first quarter, and then scored fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer, and ended up losing. Especially Game 5 where they were up 26 and lost, and that 26-point lead was in the second quarter. So does it make sense that Milwaukee would want to come out of here, or come out of this game, or come out of the chute for this game in a very fast pace, like a pace of close to 95 to 100 field goal attempts?
Well, I would say this: the Hawks at 90.2 per 100 possessions, I believe is what the Hawks are early on. Let me just look it up. I was doing my numbers, and I will tell you right now I agree with an underplay here for several reasons. One, because I don't think Milwaukee's going to come out and try to play at pace because they're playing the Hawks. The thing that Tony just mentioned, that Trae Young had only played one time against Milwaukee this year. In that one game, I believe that one game, Tony. If you knew that, then maybe you knew that. I think may have been Trae Young's one of his worst games, and it was essentially I think he was 0 for 8 from the first 8 shots. I think he played for 30, or he had 30 shot. I can't remember now what it was. Let me just look. But he got guarded by Drew. Drew shut him down in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm trying to look it up right now. But Milwaukee is, if you look at their numbers compared to the rest of the playoff field, you'll find that they're one of the better defensive teams as far as the metrics go within these playoffs, within the first 2 rounds. And I see very little reason for them. I'm just saying, to your question, John, I see very little reason for them to believe they have to take a lead. Milwaukee's been, I think, the best with a lead, especially with a fourth quarter lead. If they have the lead, they've done a good job in crunch time possessions. Their opponents, I think defensively, their opponents rank last in crunch time possessions, points, et cetera, and that I really have no problem with Milwaukee. And I'll ask you guys, my biggest concern with this Bucks team is that while Holiday is an all defensive player, all NBA defensive player, or all-star defensive player, I don't like him as a guy to depend on for an offensive possession, handling the point. I really don't. And I certainly don't want the Greek Freak doing it, but he seems to like to do it. And I see no reason for him to ever try to stretch the floor and take threes with his percentage and his inaccuracy. But I'm long-winded here on this. I don't think the Bucks are in a hurry to do anything at all. I think they're going to play it much like they did against Brooklyn when they were shorthanded. They didn't have their big 3 or even their big 2 for most of the time. If you noticed how they were not in a hurry. Milwaukee leads of all playoff teams, they're the most efficient team in transition. They score the most points in transition. They are very efficient. They don't seem to be doing that, and they prevent the most transition points. So I don't see them changing much, guys. I mean, after the Miami series, tell me, they dominated Miami. I love that series because that's the way I played it. I played them all 4 games. The second series against Brooklyn was really a hit and miss for me because There was more questions about Brooklyn with the injuries they had than I had about Milwaukee. I think I know who Milwaukee is. I know who Coach Bud is, and Bud's changed he's changed everything this year, guys. He got a lot of criticism for limiting his studs minute wise. Look at what his first rotation's averaging right now, minute wise. The most they ever have under him. As much as 40 for I think for Holiday or for the Greek, a lot of minutes. He's not hesitating at all to leave him on the floor.
Yeah, they've allowed just 11.4 transition points per game.
Right, exactly.
See if he agrees or disagrees with us.
Yeah, I like your under.
My thoughts on the total are, I guess, Tony, you said that it opened to 229,
229.
and it's been bet down to 226.
Right.
That would be enough to scare me off of a bet on the under. It's just a rule I have. If I miss out on 3 points, it's always a pass for me. Even though,
to your point, that's kind of why I split it up into the in-game because you're taking advantage of what I call price volatility, and there's going to be runs. As I said, my hope is that they do start out, and both teams start out fast, and you get a pace of about 8.5 points per minute at some point in the first quarter, and you will see those 234s at least. But I agree that playing 226 is a hell of a lot different than playing 229 in the opening.
Well, that 229, to interrupt you, that 229 opener, I'm not sure where that was. The books I use for openers aren't. I'm looking at the WagerTalk live odds, and it does say 229 was the opener. I'm just not certain, Tony, or you guys. I'm not certain who we use for that opening number. I know it's an outfit, it's a shop that has an overnights because we want to have that opening number up as soon as possible, obviously. But I use Penny a lot. Penny opened this at 227, so if the 225 and they're at 225 and a half right now, so that's still a point and a half. As Tony said, the market is playing this south of the number, or at least south of what the number was right now. Opened it.
And not to belabor the point with free throw shooting as it related to the Sixers series, but Giannis has not exactly been locked in from the free throw line. Do you think that is going to be a potential problem for the Bucks in the series?
It's a problem if you're laying 8 points.
Yeah, that is a problem, isn't it? But he was a 70% free throw shooter during the regular season, guys. So is this going to be a Is this going to be a drama where he continues to struggle? Yeah, right.
You have a decent game 7 at the line.
Yeah. The one thing I don't like about the Greek at the free throw line is that I can go to the restroom, get a beer, come back, and he still hasn't shot his free throw.
Did you see James Harden?
No.
He was in the position there for on the side for rebounding, and it was hilarious because he was trying to get the referee to admit that he was taking longer than what the regulations say you're allowed to take, and basically throwing his arms up in the air like what are you doing? Like looking right at him like this is ridiculous. So you're right. I mean, why don't they call that?
Well, because this is the playoffs. There's certain things you're not. They have called it once. They've called it once.
The Heat series.
Yeah. So, but they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to. Listen. When Jokic, when he got thrown out for that flagrant 2, I think that's pretty brazen. That was, if you're going to play, there's certain things you do in playoffs. They don't call it the same way, physicality-wise. What's a foul in the regular season isn't necessarily a NBA playoffs, but I thought that was, not that I disagreed with, I think by the letter of the law, he should have probably been disqualified, or at least, ejected from the game.
Yeah.
But you can't, it's hard for me to stomach that during a playoff series in a big game that they were in. At that time, they needed to win, obviously. They hadn't won a game yet. I just found it surprising, should I say.
Yeah. Anything else on this game, guys, before we move on to baseball?
I mean,
No?
if anybody wants more numbers, the NBA app, John Schumann does a great job. He's done so for years, breaking down, factors with numbers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he does.
So one note on the Bucks defense, if you want support it for your under, they've held their opponent under a point per possession in 6 of their 11 games. No other team has allowed less than a point possession more than 3 times. And
Wow. There you go.
one other thing is they've allowed just 2 corner threes per game, fewest in the playoffs. Bogdanovich and Herter, they love that corner 3. Snell too.
Yep.
It'll be interesting.
No, you're right.
Again, I'm curious to see what Trae Young could bring on the road, because he's got to lead his team. And we'll see whether there's any wear and tear from the Philly series for him, Herter with an ankle, and Bogdanovich, who's a game time decision with his knee.
I looked up that Trae Young production, that game I was talking to. I didn't have the numbers on it, and it was Holiday that guarded him that day. He was 0 for 8 from the field. It was it was unbelievably a bad performance by Young, but it was quite a while ago, and it depends on how you feel about how the regular season translates into the postseason. I don't put a whole lot of emphasis on it.
Well, who's going to be guarding him? Probably Middleton, right?
Who? Trae Young? No, it'll be Holiday. Holiday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does make more sense.
Yeah, Holiday's a big physical point guard. I mean,
Yeah.
Trae Young could have issues.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's
Agreed.
I said we're going to move to baseball, and I just I hardly ever brag, but I had the over today as a 4-unit play in the Phillies-Washington game. Despite the fact that if you looked at the metrics, the bullpens had ridiculously good numbers the last 7 days, and the starting pitchers had good numbers, except for Velasquez was, he struggles in day games, and he just struggles big time in day games. In games played on grass, he's started 9 games now. He's given up 10 home runs. I don't know how many he gave up today. But for once here in Major League Baseball, it's nice to have an over that screams over in about the 3rd inning. And there's no sweating it. There's no free throws to be missed. There's no backdoor covers.
I played that game
What is the
John.
score of that game now?
11-10 Washington, bottom of the 8th.
That's pretty close to a final, isn't it?
It's bottom of the 8th. Yeah, I played against Velasquez.
105.
Yeah, I played against Velasquez. And I played against him because of his command issues and because of the umpire. They umpire in this game small
Tight
strike zone. It's a nightmare matchup, umpire to pitcher for Velasquez. I mean, nightmare. And I haven't watched any of it. I just kind of glanced over it. But it's obvious that Fetty hasn't been as good as he's been over the last 3 or 4 starts either. So.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back to baseball, but I want to get Jesse's take here on the Euro 2020, because we did the show previous to this one for his debut, and now he has the debut here. We just lost him, I think.
Did we lose? Yeah, we did. He dropped off. He probably didn't know the score of that game and had the under or something.
We got 2 games in both matches, so they're getting Tony Finn golds so he can watch.
Yeah.
What is going on in the Euro, Tony Mejia?
Hungary and Germany are even at 2, and France and Portugal are even at 2. I believe that allows Germany to survive as a 3rd place team, because but there's going to be head-to-head tiebreakers in there, and I want to say France led the group going into today, so it's going to be really tight with 5 points. I think wins the group. And, the WagerTalk soccer betting guide had France as a 5-1 odds to win the group. Germany 7-1. Portugal is 8-1. And Hungary, who outside of a really bad few minutes in the end of that Portugal game, came in at 400-1. And really have given a great account of themselves.
Yeah. Welcome back, Jesse.
Sorry about that. I was trying to check baseball scores, and I shut down the wrong page.
We were afraid that you had the under in the Phillies game, and I wasn't very compassionate in bragging about the score. But I know you had some great ideas for the prop bet involving a player on Italy that I promise you I'm going to tail because it makes total sense to me and it's a great, tremendous value bet. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty high on Italy coming into the tournament. They were not one of the big favorites, but they are now after sweeping the group stages. They didn't concede a goal. They're now working on over 1,000 consecutive minutes without conceding a goal. They're undefeated in their last 30 matches. They've really been quite impressive. So you have to think they've got just as good a chance as anybody to reach the final and maybe even win it. And that being said, their best player is a guy named Ciro Immobile, and the price for him to win the tournament's most outstanding player or the player of the tournament is 25 to 1. And when you compare that to some of the other big names like Ronaldo and Mbappe, you're looking at 5 to 1, 4 to 1, something along those lines. To get 25 to 1 on the best player on one of the best teams, it just seems like a value bet, well worth it taking a stab at that.
Yeah, I like that bet quite a bit.
Immobile has only played 2 games. He scored a goal in both of those games. And then the coach rested him for their third game against Wales. So he's coming in healthy and fit and ready to go.
I'm 1-0, guys, in my career betting soccer. I'm not quite ready to put him out as premium picks yet, but I did have Ronaldo with 2 goals in the first game. That was Portugal against Hungary, I think.
Yeah, he got them late.
And I took a stab at it. It was clearly luck. And what did he do? He scored in the 89th and 92nd minute. So that all happened at the end. But I think he has 3 for the tournament overall, right?
What's that?
Ronaldo, he has 3 total goals, I think, now for the tournament, right?
He's got 4. He scored again.
4.
He scored twice
today.
On penalty kicks. I don't think that game is ended yet. I'm trying to see.
Now, he's not as old as Phil Mickelson, though, right?
No. Yeah,
But he's pretty old for the league, seriously. Right? He's an older statesman type guy, right? But he's still the best.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps his body in tremendous shape and all of that. He's, what, 35?
I think he's 36.
36.
But like you say, he's in better shape than a lot of guys that are 30.
Yeah, no doubt. And if that ends 2-2, then France wins the group.
It's over. It's finished now.
It's over. Okay. So France won the group. Germany finished second, and Portugal is going to be a top tier third, right?
I think they'll squeak in as one of the better third place teams.
Yeah. Well,
Based
I mean,
on
it's
their
going to be.
big win
It's already
against-
been a fun tournament, so it's only going to get better in the knockout phase.
And already they have the games listed. Wales is playing Denmark at noon on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. Italy at Austria at 3. Croatia at Spain Monday, June 28th at noon. And now that these matches are over, I guess they'll populate the rest of them.
Yeah,
That Wales,
Belgium,
Denmark
Portugal, and
matchup.
England, Germany. I mean, that's 2 final type games in the round of 16. That's wild.
Yeah, now it gets real exciting. Now they don't do any, like in the semifinal of the Champions League, they do the aggregate 2 games comprised the semifinal. There's nothing like that in this event, is there?
Winner take all.
No.
All
They
right,
will go
so,
to penalties though. If it's a draw after 90 minutes and then an additional time, I think they'll play 20 minutes after the 90. They'll have an additional 20, and then they'd go to penalties.
Yep. Got some
So you
PKs.
will see a lot of games go to penalties.
So are there teams, and again, I'm learning here, are there teams that they would be trying to do that because they know in the penalty kicks, or not the penalty, what was the word you used? The shootout. But it's not a shootout. Whatever that final stage is the game when it's tied and they've done the
penalty
20
shootout?
minute. Are there teams that would want to do that because they know that they can win in that situation, or is it more
I
random?
mean, if you were a team like Switzerland and you were playing France and you thought you could slow the game down to force penalties, then you'd probably think you're going to have a better chance at winning a penalty shootout than you are going to at beating them in 90 minutes of play.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There was a really fun penalty shootout for the Europa League final this year. I don't know. Did anybody catch that one?
No.
No, I missed that one.
But I'm
It
listening.
went to a penalty shootout, and every single player on both teams scored, and they just scored. So all 10 men scored, and then it was the goalies, and it was one goalie on another goalie, the goalie actually kicking the
Oh my
game-winning
goodness.
goal. And then the guy who he scored on had to come, and he had a chance to tie it. And the second goalie missed the first miss of the shootout. It was quite fun.
Wow. Can you imagine that in the NHL? Do the goalies have to, be part of the shootout?
No.
I actually like that idea. That would be entertaining to say the least.
Well, they don't
I'm
have
not-
to wear all those pads, so I mean, but it was entertaining. I got to say that's the first time I've seen that.
Wow. That is pretty amazing. So let's go back to baseball. And Tony Finn, is there any game that you really like tonight? You want to break down a little bit for us?
Let me look here real quick. I didn't.
In fact, we'll just start this as our best bet final round. How about if we do that?
Okay, very good. And go to best bets, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna ride. I won't be too windy about the breakdown itself. I will say that right now, I've been riding despite matchup, and I shouldn't say despite matchup. Most of the matchups in this series are going to favor Houston. I've been riding Houston, and I've been playing if the money line, if the opening number, or even the closing number is going to be closer to $1.50, then what I've done is I've played the run line, and Houston's been pretty successful. They're hitting the ball pretty well right now. They're seeing the ball really well. They're a balanced team. Save their bullpen, which is probably the Achilles of this team. They may be the most balanced team in baseball right now. And when their starting pitching goes 7 innings or more, I believe they're 21 or 22-0 on the season. Garcia's been good. The return of Valdez has been, while the sample size is small, it's been special. And if you think about all the players and the pitchers that have left this team over the last 3-4 years, how they continue to be one of the best coaching staffs as far as pitching goes, and what they're able to do with pitchers that are considered pedestrian or maybe low-end, below elite levels, what they've been able to do and transform them into not just competitive, but to some degree all-star worthy. And tonight's pitcher's he's never going to wow anybody. Urquidy, he's just not. He doesn't throw the ball past guys. He for the most part, his elite container, his elite variable is his ability to command pitches. And Eshelman for Baltimore is not that guy. In fact, his 4 years, if there's one thing he's not been able to demonstrate, even at AAA, was being able to command his arsenal. A 5-year career in the minors, he had a 4.22 ERA, and for the most part, there is again an umpire there tonight, Adam Beck, who's one of the new generation MLB umpires. He's only going to get his 14th assignment behind the dish on Wednesday, grading pitches, calling balls and strikes at Camden, at Oriole Park in Camden. And he's the only umpire, and I'm throwing this in here, and he's the only umpire in the history of Major League Baseball, modern history, to have a strikeout to walk ratio of less than 2 for 2 consecutive seasons, with the second season being after June 1st. Now, it's a small sample size. I just threw it in to tell you this guy has such a small strike zone that a guy like Urquidy has such an advantage over Eshelman. It's ridiculous. And tonight you have to lay 1.5, and you're still going to have to. You're still getting juiced to $1.30, maybe even $1.40 at some joints. So my play, Houston -1.5.
Love it. Houston is a good team for sure, and I was like giving a shout out because I kind of like like when you know somebody that just made it and they're a rookie and they came from a place called Millersville in Pennsylvania and they're starting. Chaz McCormick seems to be finding the groove. He's got 8 homers now, 24 RBIs, and had the pleasure of meeting him through my son's college teams with his twin brother. And it's amazing how we all have stories like this. It's not just me, but believe me, I'm a Astros fan now because of it. I follow him, and I can't even imagine what it's like going from the college, then you go to that rough life of rookie ball, then single A. You're taking bus rides all night, double A. You have to carry your bags everywhere. You pay for your bats in the minors. You pay for your gloves in the minors. Then suddenly you become a major leaguer, and people will start carrying your brand new bats, and your name is on your bat, and it's just like an incredibly different world. But anyway, little shout out there,
Okay.
and you guys can do the same thing for the guys too, because it's it's not that they're listening; it's just you're thinking of them, and it's just a cool thing. But anyway, I hate to say this, guys, but it wouldn't be a show if I didn't talk about the PGA. Nobody's saying anything.
No.
Nobody's saying
We
anything.
hate saying
So Nick Borman, I'm going to talk. I interview David Behrman of ESPN, who's now. He kicked butt in the U.S. Open. Period. 12 of the 14 shows he's been on with me have been profitable, and the U.S. Open was ridiculously profitable. He went 5-0 in his matchups. He did have John Rahm to win top 10, and that really wasn't saying much to win because he owns Torrey Pines. Nobody, including Tiger Woods, has ever played better at Torrey Pines. But still, it paid off 9.5 to 1. And then he had several other top 10 finishers. So another good week. And I can tell you very quickly here what Nick Borman was talking about with some of these guys. Personally, I think Paul Casey, and this is one that's shared by the two men I just mentioned their names. Paul Casey comes up very high on my models. He's 9,900 in the DraftKings. He played well in the U.S. Open, made the first page of the leaderboard early on Sunday. Another guy that's kind of flying under the radar that could win this is Kevin Streelman. But the one guy that's really standing out that has yet to win, but is in the top 50 in the world rankings. In fact, I think he's in the top 25 now. Abraham Answer. This is my personal pick to win, and that's what we're going to go with. Other guys that could be part of your DraftKings lineup would be, I would include a guy like Doc Redman, because this is a course, it's a TPC course. Pete Dye designed, who did the infamous Players course at TPC Sawgrass with the Island Green. He also did the Ocean course at Kiowa, where Phil Mickelson won the PGA. But this course, he gave solo golfers a break. It's a par 70. It plays a little short for tour standards at 6,800. The rough is not going to be anything like these guys were playing last week, and probably in the neighborhood of 18 under, maybe a little bit higher, will win it. Patrick Cantley holds the course record with a 60, and he was an amateur when he did it. He was a junior. No, he was a freshman in college when he played the event for the first time, and that was in 2011. He shot 60, and it's been the same course for 38 years. So that's my little take. Eclecticizing, Tony. That's the new word. Eclecticizing. my lineup using the brilliance of Nick Borman and David Behrman to come up with my lineups.
All right. I have a question for you, real quickly.
That's my free pick for the show.
Is Fowler in this tournament? I know that he didn't qualify for the for last week's tournament, which surprised me, by the way.
He is.
But, okay.
He is in the tournament, and that's a good name because I asked both guys. It seems like when you are a young family and you're going to have that firstborn, that there's some magic stuff goes on, and I guess the golfers now call it nappy time. They could do better name, I think, but it's nappy time. And John Rahm, I mean, you saw at the end of the tournament, he has his little baby, in his arms. He's got the gorgeous wife, and it just seems like he's got a incredible hold of life right now. If you want to hear an athlete do an acceptance speech after he got the trophy, it blew my mind how great it was, and how he talked about the tournament 3 weeks prior where he tested positive for COVID. He was leading the tournament by 6 strokes. 1.6 million went up in flames. And the way he has handled that, there's always been a kind of a knock on him that he has a bad temper. And the bad temper is going to prevent him from winning majors. But you listen to him, and the way he handled himself from that event the next 3 weeks, and then comes and wins the U.S. Open, I think all of you will be very impressed with this guy, and he's going to probably win another one. I mean, I would not, if you like him, I would bet him right now for the British Open, and that is something I'm very seriously thinking of doing. He could easily go back-to-back. So anyway, that's the PGA segment of our show. It's always a solo most of the time, but Rob Veno at least takes notes and writes things down, and I guess he pretends to bet them. But let's go down here to Jesse Schule for his free pick of the show, and then we'll conclude with Tony Mejia, and we'll call it a night.
Well, oh, that's my battery. Oh, fuck.
We can hear you, Jesse. I
can undo his video too, and we'll still be able to hear you. Let's go to Tony Mejia then, and get his final thoughts and free pick here, and we'll try to come back to Jesse.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hope that Bogdan Bogdanovic does play tonight, because I think that will significantly impact Kevin Herter, whose points prop for tonight is 12.5. He scored 17, Herter did, in Game 6 against the Sixers, and 27 in Game 7. So, but that was a direct result of Bogdanovic's knee flaring up. So if Bogey's able to play tonight, you're going to have to make sure of that. I would fade Kevin Herter. Trae Young's obviously going to get his points. Lou Williams is going to come in and take shots. So I think that the Herter ride, while it was huge in terms of changing that series and getting Atlanta through, ends up ending tonight.
All right.
Yeah. So what did you get on that? I want to ask Tony.
Yeah.
What did you get? I looked at that. I played that as well. So I was curious where you played it at. What number you got on that?
12.5 at FanDuel.
Okay. Mine was 13.5. I got under 13.5 at -111 at Penny. So you might want to run.
You always got
a quick question for you guys.
Props.
Yeah.
It's only been in recent years I started shopping lines, right? And every once in a while I read something or hear something. Penny has always been on top of my list, and it makes me feel like I've had that right because you guys agree with that. But what about Heritage? I do hear periodically that they're a book that is there for the big better. They're not going to shy away from it.
Well, I think they're a sharp book.
Or is Heritage any
No, I think Heritage deserves some butt slaps. They do some things really well too, as well. Just like anything, there seems to be always. Tony might agree or disagree, but there's always certain books. I never would play bookmaker. They were really a square book for years, and still to this day, I don't use them because they have I can probably get that 10-cent line, but they have a 20-cent baseball line, and baseball's baseball's tough enough to beat. Don't give me a 20-cent line. So.
Well, how did the guys make money when it was that 9 to 5 line? It wasn't even a 20-cent line. It was like 9 to 5, 8 to 5.
Well, there's always ways to make money, but
12 to 10.
You can translate that into money line.
But that would be pretty wide, though, right? I mean, 12 to 10 would be a 40-cent line.
Oh, I thought you were talking about odds of a team. There are locals that put everything in their favor. 20-cent lines, 30-cent lines. If you parlay and you push on one of your parlays, you're a loser. I mean, there's all kinds of ways the locals get you.
Yep.
And you can shop. Penny's always been one of my favorites because they're just fair. They don't have they're just fair. 8-cent line. There's other places I've gotten 5-cent lines, but it requires that you do a few things that sometimes I don't like to do, and that's you have to lay a little bigger deposit.
I've never looked at them for in-game NBA, but I presume they probably do pretty well with that too.
Penny they're actually, I use the problem with Penny is this: they still don't comply. They still don't take U.S. citizens yet. So he had to go through an agent. He had to go through an agent to play with him. And so all the people here, all my apps that I use for in-game live here in Vegas, there are certain ones that do a better job than others. There are certain ones that offer more. I don't know about Tony. Tony, where are you located at?
Orlando,
okay. We're not allowed to have DraftKings or there's a lot of places we're not allowed to play at here as a Nevada resident. And William Hill probably, they're trying to take over the world, yet alone Las Vegas. They're trying to buy everything and anything they can. And the company, my wife works for a large outfit that has 100 different locations, sportsbook but long story short is William Hill's gotten there. They have kiosks in every single one of their pubs, every one. So it's really simple. For what I like about William Hill is this, guys. I have a William Hill credit card. They don't have the best numbers, and they're a little bit square. They're square. In fact, they would rather have they'd rather have $20 players than a guy like me. They just want all the $20 players in the world. That's their only goal. And but they have a kiosk, and here's the deal: I don't have to even go to the kiosk with my credit card. I can transfer money to my account through that card, and if I want to withdraw, I hit one button and it puts it on my card. That's how simple it is. Everyone should do that.
That's cool.
For
I agree.
Players, yeah.
I have one for Bet MGM.
I have not. I've heard. I don't know about Tony, but I've heard. There's the guys I know that have been with Bet. It's a lot of complaints about that, and I hate to say that because I don't know that, and I'll say it right now. I don't know it personally. It's just what I've been told. So that's it.
I knock on wood. I haven't had any
Good.
any issues with it. I don't use it that much either, but it's nice having it. That's the point. Like you don't have to really necessarily.
Do they have Bet MGM in your state? So is that why you're able to use it?
Yes, and
Okay.
New Jersey. So I'm right on the Delaware River between the two, and unlike William Hill, where, for example, I can take my dog hiking over in the New Jersey side, and I have a New Jersey app. I have to go about 2 miles inland until I'm allowed to bet.
That surprises me because I go down to Laughlin sometimes. Tony, I don't know you guys how much you spend here, but I'll go to Laughlin, okay, and I'll stay at one of my wife says they have a resort down there. I have a couple of them. And I have to actually go from one side of the floor, the casino floor. All I have to do is go 5 steps where I'm in Nevada. It's on the border, so part of the casino's in California. Some of it's in Nevada. and sometimes I'll try to make a wager, and I'm on the wrong side of the floor. I have to walk over about 20 steps, and immediately it will allow me to make that William Hill bet. So it's that precise.
That's wild.
Well, it should be like that for New Jersey then too. I never understood why.
All right, boys, I'm going to take a nap.
Hey, Tony, I hope you feel
Tony,
better.
thanks
Good luck
for being
tonight.
part of this, and I'm going to sign us
Appreciate it.
off here
Thanks,
right
Tony.
now. And I know you've been under the weather, to say the least, and for the fact that you're here, it means a lot to me and everybody that you took the time to be part of this. And hope you feel better soon, man.
Yeah, I should be fine by Friday for sure.
I owe you an apology, Tony.
Why?
One time I covered for Tony on the NBA show, and he said, "Man, I just got my shot, and I'm feeling it's well." And I remember saying on the on our office communicator, I said, "Well, I'll cover for that sissy." And then I got my shot, and for about 8 hours, I mean, it kicked my ass. So
I called you Mary.
Yeah. So you
don't have to apologize. Your personality is tremendous. So
Tony,
I can take it personally.
be careful what I say. I need to be careful what I say, not because I'm afraid somebody's gonna hit me in the mouth, because I'm certain it's gonna happen to me. Hope you feel better, buddy.
Appreciate it.
For Tony Mejia, Tony Finn, myself, the Predictive Playbook, powered by SportsMemo.com and WagerTalk.com. May all the wins be yours.